There are no sales of any kind associated with this video or channel. I do not sell firearms, firearm components, or offer any services. I'm not encouraging or advising anyone to build or modify firearms. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Hey, what's up everyone? This video will be the project wrap up for this pistol, the compensated 5-inch that I built. I will make a separate video later that goes into detail about the process of fitting a barrel with a compensator. There will be a link to the build playlist in the description where you can find more videos about the details of this build. Let's get into it. This is a 5-inch overall length modular double stack 1911. It's got a full length rail dust cover. The frame is from Chile, slides from Atlas, and I use their red dot system, 2.5 MOA SRO on top. The barrel is from Schumann Z. Grip module is the MJD Killmonger. The texture is great. It's pretty dang aggressive. I machined a steel mainspring housing from Dawson Precision to better match the grip module texture. Unfortunately, this didn't end up being very grippy. Were I to do this again, I would make the pattern deeper and make these blocks a little bit smaller so it bites into your hand more. Funnily enough, I machined a neat little 15-degree memory pad on the side of the frame here, and on my 4.15 it ended up being too sharp, and so I machined this not as deep, and now it's too slick. So third time's a charm. I'll have it just right on the next build. This is a steel MJD magwell that is very nicely matched to their grip. The addition of the steel mainspring housing and steel magwell really helped balance out the gun quite well. It's probably balanced just a little bit further forward on the trigger guard here. The weight is right at 40 ounces with the optic, no magazine. I bobbed the pin Chile beaver tail like I did on my 4.15. The slide serrations are the same as my last two builds. Slide frame and comp are all nitride treated. This was done by AB Prototype. They also did the DLC on the rest of the components that you see are black, like the thumb safety hammer, beaver tail, etc. I went with Atlas shielded thumb safeties, and I went really pretty hard with the blending on these. The back of this grip feels amazing. It's just really, really comfortable. No hot spots whatsoever. I did do a Marvel disconnector cut on this slide. Stay tuned for a video on the machining process and my thoughts on that modification. I did not want iron sights on the pistol. The Atlas optic plate kind of looks goofy without the rear sight, so I machined it flush with the back of the SRO, and then I put a chamfer on the top corner of the slide to make it look a little bit cleaner. I also blended the front corners of the Atlas optic plate so it matches the Atlas slide because the V2 plates don't for some reason. I media blasted the optic plate and got it recoated in DLC with the rest of the small components. After I did my final tuning and shot it with a bunch of different ammo, I settled on an 8-pound conventional government length recoil spring. That felt the best to me. I needed to determine the slide length, compensator length, and port size. I had a great conversation with AJ from the Let It Out YouTube channel regarding compensator port designs and size. Thanks to him for that. I asked you all, my viewers, if people could send me some measurements of their compensated pistols. A few of you did, and I really appreciate it. I also put pictures of some of the pistols I was interested in image analyzing software and calibrated the scale with known distances and measured their slide and comp length and port dimensions. So keep in mind I was using a comp blank from D2 Customs that threads onto the end of the barrel. So the length of the slide, overall length of the pistol, length of the compensator, port size, and thread engagement on the end of the barrel were all pretty closely coupled. Of course, I made a 3D model. I settled on a 4.1-inch slide and 800 thousandths long comp. Keep in mind a government slide is 4.9-inch, and that's the overall length I needed to match my full-length dust cover. In terms of the port design, I saw that they were generally about 3/8 of an inch from front to back, so that's what I targeted. That kind of forced a certain compensator length to maintain enough thread engagement with the barrel. So this barrel started out as a standard 4.6 inch Schumann Z barrel, and I machined it back to 4.4 inches and threaded about 350 thousandths of the muzzle. The comp port is 3/8 of an inch from front to back. I machined the initial shape with a 5/16 ball end mill to keep the corner radii a little smaller to increase the chamber volume. It's 170 thousandths narrower than the width of the slide or the compensator. And then I came back in just the front with an 1/8 inch ball end mill and machined the front of it like this. And I widened this whole front face by decreasing the radii in the corners. I did this to increase the cross-sectional area of the front wall, where the expanding gas impinges and gets redirected upward. Now, will I ever be able to tell if these little design details result in a measurable increase in performance? Nope. But that's just what I was considering when designing this port. The conversation I had with AJ was really more about the inclusion of the side ports and when those are appropriate. And we both came to the conclusion that they wouldn't be for this port size. My understanding of it is if the top port is small enough, it won't vent nearly as much gas upwards, and there will always be an excess of gas volume versus chamber volume and the cross-sectional area of the top of the port. So if that's the case, it's beneficial to add side ports and vent some of the excess gas sideways. Will this help with muzzle flip? No, not really, but it will take away some of that energy that might otherwise be contributing to the rearward push of the recoil impulse and, diverting it sideways, kind of acting like a muzzle brake. This is my nastiest trigger job. This is what I think a high performance 1911 trigger should be. I set the take up at 3/4 of a millimeter. The take up is 1.25 pounds to the wall, and the brake is 1 more pound on top of that, for a total of 2.25 pounds. The reset is really short and positive. Here's what the engagement relationship and engagement depth looks like. It's pretty crisp. This trigger just begs you to go fast. It's quite naughty. I won't set up triggers with a brake weight lower than this. To get the brake weight sub 2 pounds and maintain safe sear engagement, the take-up needs to be adjusted below 1.25 pounds. Remember, the middle leaf of the sear spring is the only one controlling take-up weight and reset action, but it also affects the brake weight. I find that with take-up weight under 1.25 pounds, the positivity of the reset suffers in a way that I just don't like. A lot of this trigger feel is subjective, of course. I would be really curious to get my hands on some higher end 2011s with sub 2 pound triggers to see how I like them and see how they do their adjustments. I'm also really curious to see how they have their sear and hammer engagement set up to maintain a reasonable factor of safety. I may or may not be able to get my hands on an Atlas Erebus and a TTI Pit Viper soon. If I do, I'll certainly make some detailed videos about their trigger setups. Here's a list of some parts that I like. They may or may not have something to do with this pistol. I was pleased that I was able to build this for about 800 smackers less than a Staccato XC, and that includes the 500 bones for the SRO. You may have noticed in those shooting clips that some of the empties were hitting the hood of the SRO and getting flung forward. There is a couple of reasons for that. One, those clips were all with different recoil spring weights because I was working through my recoil spring tuning as I was filming, and some of those were with heavier springs that were slowing the slide down, and then the case doesn't get ejected as vigorously and it hangs out in front of the optic as it comes back forward. The Atlas optic mount system sets the SRO pretty far forward and pretty high up, which also doesn't help. The other thing was my initial extractor tension was a little bit on the loose side, so I've since adjusted that a bit tighter, and that also helped. I am super pleased with this pistol. It shoots great. It was, 100% reliable during my testing, and it is damn fast. I think I hit a really nice combo of slide and comp length and port size and shape for the ammo that I'm going to be typically shooting through it. Accuracy came out good, about 1.5 inches at 25 yards with 124 grain spear gold dot from bag support. I can't really shoot better than like a 1.25 to a 1.5 inch group at that distance anyways. This is the first compensated 2011 with a full-length dust cover that I've ever shot, and I think it's pretty special that the first one happened to be one that I built. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, or if you have any questions about anything that I didn't cover. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.